friends, welcome to the Yarnchix Podcast. My name is Mimi and I podcast from Berlin. We're currently in lockdown, so it's me, the 3 kids and the dog most of the time because Dan, my husband, is working, and from next week I will be working some days again in the wool shops, Wollen Berlin and Lalen, which is kind of a point in time where my routine will change. I thought I would have so much time during this lockdown, but also there was so much time lost to feeling frozen and actually not as creative or productive as I kind of expected of myself. What's really helped is reading a lot more about the incentive to move away from grind culture and resting, and that not being productive doesn't mean we're not doing good, because rest is good and we need to come to terms with a whole new world, a whole new normal. So it's good to rest, and it's helped me read up about that. So if I'm podcasting now, it means I've kind of overcome that block and I will just keep it short today because there is so much stuff that I want to talk about, but I do like giving myself less editing work because I tend to go crazy during the podcast, make lots of mistakes, and then start ironing out all that stuff for the podcast, which I'm gonna try and avoid this time. So I wonder how it's gonna be. Do let me know what you think. Before I go into the actual podcasting bit, I always give you a bit of a brief overview. Visually, there is a lot of talking about the Magic 3 make-along. There is talk about the Linumuka knit-along and some projects related to that. And there will be quite a lot of chatter about toy making or planned toy making. I've made a little drawing that I will share to give you a bit of an overview of all my ideas for the make-along that started on the 1st of May. Visual intro. I welcome you to my sofa in Berlin Wedding, where I podcast. My Instagram handle is Liebwed, especially because of Wedding or Liebeswedding, where I live. And I have a Yarnchix Podcast Ravelry group where we chat. I welcome everyone who has joined there recently and who has found the make-along, either through friends who are all joining in and are getting excited and we're all communicating about it on Instagram, as well as maybe other podcasts like Fran Woolenhart's lovely podcast. She has referred back to me, and I'm super thankful for her support. And you will see we're kind of teaming up and helping. She's definitely helping me out on this podcast venture, which is the Magic 3 Make-Along in its 4th year. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I know some of you for such a long time, because most of the growth of this podcast came from this make-along, where we make a top, some bottoms and a toy, so 3 items for a kid in our life. That could be grandchildren, it could be our own children, it could be neighbors' kids, friends, it could be someone who you think about further afield, or someone you might not even know, and you just feel like making something for little ones and gifting it. There is actually someone really lovely who's recently said, Isabella, she said, I haven't got children, but I've decided to make in a project that locally to her in Australia was set up to donate handmade stuff to Syrian refugees. So I really think that is a really great way to make and enjoy, like making, hand making, thinking about someone small who will appreciate and have fun wearing or playing with the things we craft. We always have a long time across summer in the Northern Hemisphere, so we start on the 1st of May and it runs until the 1st of October. Special this year is a dedicated, should I say it again? Part of the make-along where we mend or we upcycle and we recycle, and I'm super excited about that. Especially I'm gonna make a little price and talk about that at the end of this part. And so if you are really into the idea of making either 3 things that you mend, recycle, upcycle, reuse fabric, stash bust, if you want to take part in that, then please, alongside of tagging Magic 3 Mal, this tag, you can also add this little extra tag, which is Magic 3 Mending Mountain, in order to tackle that mending mountain and upcycling, recycling. I'm definitely doing a lot of that. I recently shared a mend, which is this romper we splashed out on last summer. It is a Boba Chooses and size 8 to 9 year old. I think it will only just about last this summer, and when it was first worn this season in a climbing tree, it was torn. So I fixed it with 2 fabric that I'll show you on the inside. So this was actually mended on the day of the accident, which helped me go into this whole, yes, it does matter to not even just put it aside and wait, but to go for it right away. So you see, I've ironed on this cotton ribbon with this fusible double-sided iron trick stuff, which I can show you in a little clip in a minute. And then I used thread color that she chose, because I said we could just use a contrast color or we could use a similar color, and I think it actually works quite well with the fabric. It's a bit lighter. The blue is slightly lighter than the actual fabric, and so it's kind of like a made up sashko skew stitch, but it will be visible, yeah, invisible, I hope, and I will keep you posted how this mend lasts, because it's one thing to mend it. Sometimes, especially with these fabric tears, where it could fray or it could tear again now that the fabric has had that certain strain. It might tear again, and then I'll have to mend it again. But I'm excited to maybe make this into a set and find 2 more things to add to it, like this being like the bottoms, and then I'll make a top and a toy to go with this mend as a little example set, because I obviously join in. I'll be making along with everyone else with lots of ideas and plans, and I will show you a little plan about that now. So I have lots of plans. I made already little cards that are sets for a baby by friends, my daughter, because I make a lot for my youngest. So I have 3 kids, 2 big boys, and it's really difficult. I did make a pair of socks and some bits and bobs for them in the last effort last year. But more and more I think it's whatever I make is kind of uncool and not the right thing. So I shall double check with my sewing skills. Maybe I'll grow them over the summer. So I might make for them as well. But at the moment I make a lot for my youngest, who is 9. Let's start with this one. So last winter I had the chance to test sew this pinafore dress. It's called the River Pinafore by Wattle Kids Handmade, and I used this linen from Berlin where I work, and I made like a patchwork part. Like the front is this patchwork pattern, and the lining is this fabric with a poppy pattern. Basically, I think my daughter will like the poppy fabric much more than the fabric patchwork. So for this set especially, I'm gonna fix it. So I'm gonna turn around this bib, like I'm picking this seam and turning it around. Also, I'll make it slightly shorter because I feel like it's a bit too elongated for, because if you see, if I put that on, that works almost for my body. I reckon it should be slightly shorter, maybe from here. Plus, I'm gonna make the buttonholes. I kind of didn't finish. It was like the last step, and I don't have a machine that does automatic buttonholes, so I'm gonna hand stitch the buttonholes on the straps, and then in the very end you add 1 button to the back. So the idea is to add several buttonholes so you can adjust the size, the length of the straps at the back. As they grow, they can then, it's kind of adjustable. And I will keep you posted on this mend of this make. So it was fabrics from my stash, an old dress that I found on a flea market, some lino mocha linen, and an old tablecloth for the patchwork bit. Yeah, and this again from a dress that I bought second hand from the flea market, plus the nice linen. I really liked that project, and maybe finalizing it in this way. As well as the sweater, which is the flax sweater. And I knitted this using wool cut yarn Opus, which is a wool and alpaca blend. It's so soft. It's so lovely. But I made a huge mistake. I basically cast on with a different color, contrast color for the ribbing, and I've got 3 skeins of this dark, almost black, but dark gray, and it's almost you you might not be able to tell in this camera light, and it's only really ever so slightly, but it is 2 different dye lots, and I have 2 skeins from one dye lot and 1 skein from another, and I cast on with the 1 skein dye lot. So when I went to knit the sleeve, you can now ever so slightly, but you can see the difference in the dye lots, and this is actually quite a lot greener. This is slightly redder, this 1 skein. It's quite amazing that 1 skein almost made the whole, you know, the whole body and the sleeves, but I just didn't notice that that was what I was doing. So I cast off the ribbing already using some of the new dye lot, and somehow I thought, okay, maybe I'll make it work and it'll be fine. But I can see it, and I reckon I'll be frustrated with it. So I'm thinking to rip it back. So I'll keep the neckline and re-knit it, because I assume I will be able to knit the whole sweater with 2 skeins. So this will be properly tinked, knit backwards. It will be unraveled. Also, because I have a feeling, and this I hadn't really taken into account, that I have made it slightly too small. Actually, I'm knitting it 2 sizes larger than my daughter's size, but it ended up being quite, my gauge is somehow very different. So I already lengthened it in order to get it to a right size, but it's quite fitted now. So in winter it won't fit anymore, and I'm not sure if I want to knit it to never be worn, or whether I want to just knit it and finish it and gift it to someone who won't see this as badly as me. I don't know, I can't decide. Well, I couldn't decide for a long time. I've decided now I will just remake this, tink it, and go back and be merry. Be a bit more dedicated in getting it right this time. And I think they go together so well. It would be such a nice set to, you know, this underneath the bib. Would be nice. Let's see if I can get that done. And for that set, I'm gonna wait for a new pattern by Cynthia Vallée, who is currently working on the last stages of her Merry Molly, this little mole, knitted mole toy. Mary, and it's a set of moles, Mary and Didi Molly, so also a kind of smaller mole, I think. And I'm super excited for her release. I am also knitting Winston Leon, and he's already cast on. I should show you in a minute. And Cynthia Vallée, she made this pattern as well. This is Myrtle Bear. She then published Winston Leon. I've got it on the needle, so I'll show you that in a minute. And Bunny Ordeal, and I plan to knit all her current patterns plus the mole pattern that is going to be published this month at some point. And Cynthia has always supported the knit along with such dedication. She's always made along with us, and she actually helped me in the year I had lots of support, like 2 years ago. We kind of teamed up together with Fran and Lisa, who is another dear friend of mine, and everybody took on a little task. It was kind of like a bigger setup. And yeah, and she is so lovely. She's gonna sponsor 3 of her patterns, so you can win a Myrtle Bear pattern, a Bunny Ordeal pattern, or a Winston Leon pattern if you comment below with a dream set that you want to make. So simply, like, in the comments below this podcast, write down your kind of dream set. It could be anything. It could be, like, you know, that you know already the patterns you plan to knit, or it might be that you always wanted to knit or sew a certain thing and you think maybe now's the time. it'd be really great. And then I'll draw a winner from that in the next podcast, which I hope to film in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to try and have more regular podcasts this month in order to kickstart a lovely make-along. And I'm so thankful that Cynthia is supporting with this giveaway, that I get to share some of her amazing doll patterns. And Myrtle is so much fun. She's currently running the Myrtle and Friends remote make-along, so I'm hopefully gonna finish at least a sweater for this Myrtle bear during that remote make-along, because I have not made this bear clothes yet, so he deserves his clothes. So I will try and do that until the 10th of May when her knit along finishes, and then you're all welcome to join with all your lovely Cynthia Valley patterns to come and move over to the Magic 3 make along. We can carry on making alongside each other. Yes, and I said I wanted to show you, I have got the beginning of Winston Leon. I haven't come far. I think since picking it up again recently, I've just done a couple of rows, and it's now kind of near the time I'm meant to put in the safety eyes and then knit the big mane. And I'm going to take my time with it, because I keep feeling a bit of a sense of a block coming up with this one, because I keep getting worried about the loops of the mane. But I'm going to be a bit more patient with myself and do it step by step. I'm going to get some safety eyes, because I'm also worried that I'll not have them ready for when I need them, and all those kind of maker anxieties that are flaring up, especially down to COVID-19 phase. I keep having these kind of rushes of going, I should have done this so long ago, why haven't I done it already? But that's just my kind of, my inner nag. It's my inner voice telling me I should be more productive, and I don't have to. So I'm gonna carry on, plod on with this. I doubt I will finish within Cynthia's make along, but I will knit this for the Magic 3 mal for a baby set that I plan to do. I'm using South Downs yarn by lovely Louise, and she plant dyes in the south of England, and this is a single breed, single flock even. I think it's called the South Downs. South Downs yarn is a specific breed, and she dyes with plants, and I really love her colors, and I love the concept and the kind of wholesome approach. I'll show you the other colors that I've got in the crinkly bag. For the mane and maybe the paws and feet, I've got more colors. I bought this at EYF in 2019. Yeah, a lovely label. So this is the Duncton flock, and she even writes down the name of the shepherd. It was from 2011. It's quite a treat I've got here. And the shade is called Shepherd's Delight. I love it. It's with madder root. And again here, this is from the Nepcote flock, and it's dyed with walnut. So I haven't got got the little card of this one, or I haven't got it nearby. I save all of these bits of paper, so I'm sure I've put it somewhere. I'm gonna read that out to you next time. Yeah, so I'm very excited to get going, carry on with my Winston Leon knitting, and being allowed to give you some of the amazing patterns, the bunny, the lion and the bear. Please join in the make along, and please join in the giveaway of this pattern, because it's going to be so much fun making these creatures alongside each other. For the Winston set, I also plan a little popcorn vest, a bit like the one I knitted years and years ago for my daughter, which she can still wear because I sized up this popcorn vest by Studio Misha and Puff. I won't have to knit it this big, and I hope I have enough yarn with this skein of DK yarn by the Travel Knitter in the colorway Saffron. I was trying to get the saffron yellow, but it's a really hard color to capture. this was chosen by my friend Mimi in London, and I can't make the sweater or cardigan with it because I've left it so long for her son, so I'm hoping that it will be enough for the second or maybe even third size of the popcorn vest, and that I have enough yarn. That's what I really hope. I'm gonna have to double check all of that, but that's coming. I'm gonna be much more cast on and rolling once the next podcast happens. Right now it's all kind of planning and scheming, and as you might be able to tell from this big list of knit dreams, there is quite a lot of dreaming and a lot of stash checking. For all of these things that are on here, I actually have got the stash and the yarn ready, so I might as well just go for it. So that was the second set. Oh no, I haven't shared. And for this set also I plan to make the taxi booties, which is a design by Baby Dagan for Pearl Soho, but it's not one of their free designs, but it's like a paid for design, and I really love them. I just think they're quite quirky, and I wanted to support the Baby Dagan project because I really love all the knitwear that comes out of there, but I can't, yeah, and I guess it's just a nice thing to make some crazy multicolored booties using lots of stash. I reckon that'll be a pretty quick project, and I can use up just little bits of treasured yarns, and it'll be fun to play around with colours. So I think that's gonna be like something I'm gonna slide in the next couple of weeks, just to have that kind of quick fix. I almost felt like knitting myself a hat recently because I feel like I need that kind of a quick fix, cast on, cast off joy. I might give myself that with a lot of colour joy by making these booties very soon, so I'm very excited. That was the second set that I have drawn a little set card for recently and shared on my Instagram. However, there's many more things that are whips or stash or sewing dreams that are meant to happen in these June, July, August, September. So we've got 4 months to make, so I think I'm gonna be diving in. I'll keep getting this out and sharing more about my knit dreams and knit makes. The last set, again, I have already said I want to knit from Cynthia Patton, the Bunny Odile. I want to sew some shorts from a jersey that I've had in my stash for a long time, or maybe it won't be enough, so I'm gonna have to get a bit of my, yeah, I've got to plan that part. I've got to plan these shorts. For the bottoms, I, however, have recently cast on for this top, which is the Parachutey, and I want to show you that. This is a double dip with the Lino Mukakal that I'm also hosting, where I knit with this linen yarn. Lino Muka is 100% linen yarn from Wollen Berlin, and I have lots of different colors that I can use for this stripy top. Is the Parachutey by Stephen West, and yeah, in this drawing you would have seen that I plan to use all sorts of colors, and I've cast on, because you knit the front sideways and then you knit parts of the back separately and knit it together, and then the I-cord finishes the sleeves and the bottom hem, and I'm super excited at this color combination. It's also a color combination that I dream knitting something for myself with those colors, so I thought it would be a nice way to start playing with these colors together. And yeah, it's actually going to be quite fun. I love stash busting in this way, and this is definitely quite a perfect stash busting project where you can use all sorts of colors and just use them till they're gone. Use them up sort of in blocks, or like I've started striping them very finely. I'm very happy to be making this kid size, so I'm going to try and shrink the pattern super inspired by my friend Julia, who is me and Simone, and her knitting is always super colourful, exciting. She's actually a test knitter for Stephen West and lives in the Netherlands, so I guess has that connection. And she knitted her boys these Parachuteys. I guess that's how I found her account, with this really, really lovely, colourful it's shoulder strap, really loose tops, and I thought it would be perfect in the linen. We'll have to see how that fares in the wearability, or if it's going to be liked. But I'm making it in the mini, and then we'll just test run it. We'll just have to try. If not, maybe because it's quite a loose top, I can wear it like a super vest. Or I might actually cast one on for myself afterwards, because it's super fun. It's not so complicated. At first I thought it's going to be quite complicated, but I read through the pattern and I reckon I'll master. It'll be fun. So stash busting through lots of the linen. That was one of the questions I also had for the Q&A of the make along. I've had several different questions, and I thought I'd put that at the end of this part. I can pledge with all my heart is that I would love for us all to use up materials that we've already got at home. It doesn't mean that you can't go out and shop for something that you really want or you really need to complete the project that you want to make, but it's just perfect to stash bust, especially for kids, where you have that one odd skein or two odd skeins. And when I look at my stash, which is actually right behind the camera, I see a lot of things that I had already planned out kids makes for, and I'm trying. And they're in the drawing. I'm going to talk you through them in the next episode and thereafter, because now I want to just get going with the sets, I think, as planned, because that's already quite a workload. I always buy yarn with a project in mind, and then if I don't touch it, I don't use it. If I don't cast on and make it right away, it might end up just sitting there waiting. And I thought this would be a great chance to give all that stash and all that material that chance to shine. And I thought also it would be great to welcome any whip that you've got. So if you've got a toy whip or any clothes that have been waiting for your attention, or that you're currently actually working on, that's super welcome. It's not like you have to cast on like crazy, like me. Potentially I'm gonna go mad with casting on. You don't have to do that, basically. You can just finish up stuff from make-alongs that you've already joined. You're super welcome to double dip. That was the second question. I'm really happy for people to make socks in one of our amazing sock knit-alongs that are going on at the moment. I'm actually joining two of them with socks for myself, but that would also work for socks for the children. So the stay-at-home sock along and the quarantine sock along are two sock knit-alongs that I have joined and I will join, so that will be a possibility. Or if I don't know, there might be more make-alongs out there, and never feel like it's like we're a closed club. It's like open to everyone and everything that you've already got planned or on your needles. Especially also with the sewing, I have a lot of fabric that I had dedicated to certain projects, and I will be diving into all those fabrics at a later date, because right now I feel like knitting. I feel like knitting toys, and I feel like knitting this linen top. And that is where I'm double dipping with Linu Muka knit along, for example, my own other knit along that I'm hosting. But what other knit-alongs are there at the moment? I don't know. You can let me know. Maybe the taxi booties that I'm knitting. I thought there was a knit-along hosted by Degan US, the designer of the booties, but I might have misunderstood that she might be giving classes of how to knit them, which I guess is also nice advice if any of you are really new knitters or more into crochet usually, and you want to learn the construction of some simple baby booties. That might be fun to join her European classes, because she has scheduled US and European classes. Do check it out. Was there another question? There was a question, and I really loved that, because actually we're gonna have lots of prizes at the end, and we'll always collect like a basket full of goodies for one overall winner, because at the very end of the knit along we will have category winners. So I will have a friendly jury helping me decide a winner for the top, a winner for the bottoms, or a winner for the toys category. And there will be an overall winner drawn with randomnumber.org, random number generator, to make it easier and kind of unbiased. We will have like a finished object thread in the Ravelry group, and I'm gonna go through all the finished set flat lays from the feed. So it would be great if it had the hashtag magic3 flat lay, and then we can then I'll create like an Excel list, and everyone will have a number, and then we'll draw a winner from that. I'm very excited about that. And for this, I'm actually collecting prizes. So if you're a maker, if you're a natural dyer, if you're an indie dyer for yarn, if you are a company with yarn, you want to give us a voucher. If you're a designer, you want to give us a PDF pattern, please direct message me, or through Instagram, for example, or on Ravelry, so we can communicate about it. I would really love to collect a bag of goodies, and I've already had a lovely sponsorship with a bag coming from Canada. Sherilyn from Kelowna, who makes these really nice totes and little project bags. She's gonna sponsor a tote, and we'll fill that up for one winner with treats that makers like yarns or fabrics, little things. There's always such a variety of treats, and it's always like making someone a little Christmas box of Christmas goods when I send off the prize. I'm very excited to do that. As well as for the different categories, there's gonna be the collection of little goodies. We'll just designate goods for that. And so that was a really good question for the Q&A, for the make along. Let's move over and move on up to talk about all the things linen. So I'm super happy I've got this cast on to bridge over between the two make alongs that I'm running. Linumukakael. Seen all the colors that I've prepped ready for the Parachutey project, and I'm super excited for that, as well as some of those colors, but only really small amounts, going into my Solasta sweater project, which is a selfish knit for myself, and I love it. I can't wait to finish and then wear it. It's a design by Amalia Ziba, and it was published in the last Pom Pom mag. I'm using Angora 2 which is a wool, acrylic and mohair blend. So a really affordable mohair substitute yarn that we sell at Wollen, plus the Linumuka, hence, you know, this kind of neon yellow ribbing, and then little smaller scrappy bits. So I always cut kind of a length like twice this. You kind of measure it really randomly and hold it double, and then you can maybe see the ends in there. Knit with it, marling with the main yarn, the Angora 2, until the thread is about to run out, and tie a knot. And then in the pattern you find out how many stitches to space these little scrappy bits of stripes, and it's almost like painting. I love it, I love it. It's so much fun to play with the colors. And I have just reached the point under the arm, so I've divided body and sleeves, and I'm gonna start marling again in the next row and continue knitting the body. And then for the sleeves I am gonna buy myself needles with a slightly larger size, because I tend to make the sleeves a bit too tight, and I really like that these sleeves are loose and long and floaty, so I'm gonna make sure the gauge doesn't change. So I'm buying that when I go back to work next week, because I'm a huge fan of Chiaogu needles. It's my thing, like lace needles, steel, and this nice red cable, which is really sturdy and strong, amazing for sock knitting. I just love these needles. So bit by bit I'm investing into all the needle sizes, and 4.5mm is a needle size I don't own yet, so I'm excited. Starting to fill the gaps in my collection of needles, and hopefully finishing this month. That would be so good, because I just cast on for the Magic 3 mal and cast off my first project. I'm so excited for the Linumuka Kal, and I've got this really quirky way of showing you. This is hopefully gonna be my May project, so then I still have June to knit more. And look, I have finished. I've finished the Ranunculus t-shirt. This was the pattern I wanted to showcase, and love. I got it exactly how I wanted it, and it's just, my swatching paid off. I was swatch crazy. You can go back to the last 2 episodes, I think, where I shared all about the different swatches that I was doing, and I ended up holding 3 strands. I haven't blocked it, so excuse like the waves, and it will pull, linen really stretches and pulls into the right places, and it'll be much more like a sturdy t-shirt fabric. I only changed one thing in the pattern, 2 things. I only changed 2 things in the pattern. One, the gauge. I knitted it on a 4mm needle, and that is why the Solasta had to go on hold, because I only that one 4mm set of needles, so I put that on spare needles whilst I knitted this. So it's a much tighter gauge than the original pattern, where you hold a mohair with fingering weight yarns. I think it's a lovely design, and it works in so many yarns. For me, for what I wanted, it was a kind of t-shirt fabric that's quite tightly knit, and the stitches to be quite compact. So a 4mm needle, using the same stitch count, and setting out to knit the wider neck opening. You see it's quite tight, but it worked for the tighter gauge. For the tighter gauge to get a kind of like a tight looking t-shirt look. And then the lace pattern with all the increases in there, so now it looks a bit foldy here, but I reckon that will iron out with time. And I knitted it so it looks really nice with jeans. I knitted it 30 centimeters from underarm down, So that's number 2 of what I've changed. Number 3 of what I've changed is I've added this ribbing to the sleeves, because I had quite a few stitches more in the sleeve from how I was knitting or dividing my stitches, that they were kind of sticking out, like flaring out and rolling up. So I just added a twisted rib, just like the neckline, onto both sides. And that took like literally 5 minutes. I was like, yes! It's just such a small little hack. And I love it. Sorry, I keep fiddling it because obviously it's not blocked and a bit wavy, but oh my word, I'm so chuffed. And I had swatched to hold the yarn double, which is kind of what we do most of the time with Ranunculus. Like I make these, for example, I make these center pull balls and then use, you know, one thread from the outside, one from the inside, for example, or I try and make 2 really tight balls. This was my first experience knitting it, holding 3 threads. I love it. It's really nice. And it's not heavy because it's relatively short and short sleeved. I reckon if you make a sweater like this, it will have the tendency to kind of pull downwards and be quite heavy to wear as well. But this is super nice, and all this like floaty, airy, wide t-shirt shape will be so nice in summer to wear. I'm super happy, as you can probably tell, and can't stop going like, oh my god, that's exactly how I hoped it would look. There is some really amazing other projects in our Ranunculus, and it would be so amazing to start collecting all of them and sharing them here, which I will do in the next podcast, because I feel like it would take a lot of editing time, and I want to get this out today. It's Sunday, but I wanted to finish this recording and then edit and then get it out, and so I couldn't film the podcast yesterday as promised, because I was too keen to have a finished object to show and to join in all the amazing makers that have finished something in the Ranunculus recently. Some really pretty stuff. I'm super inspired to cast on more, and I will cast on more for myself. But for now, I think it's great. I have the Ranunculus as a t-shirt. I'm knitting the Parachutey for my daughter, and the Solasta is on the needles for me. Plus all those makes for the Magic 3 make along. There'll be plenty of making happening. One of the last projects I wanted to show, and then I'll let you go with a little extra bit at the end, is the socks that I'm knitting. This is the finished sock. Midnight Dancer sock by Sari Nordlund in Ocean by the Seas. Really lovely twirl base, and this colorway is called Sage. I really love it. And then I used some Jawohl Langs, sort of generic sock yarns for the bottom, because I'm too worried to walk through this really beautiful plant-dyed yarn. Inspired by the yarn from Ocean, I call these my sage socks, and the idea is that it's kind of the sage leaf and then reaching into the sage branch. I might actually add some duplicate stitches just to make it look more branchy. And what I did here underneath the heel, I also did like a slip stitch area exactly in the spot where I usually walk through my socks. And I will use the duplicate stitch in the other area where I walk through my socks. I really do walk holes into my handmade socks, and that makes me too sad. I don't want to accept it, and I thought, why not actually make them robust enough from the start. So this is the first finished sock, and the second sock is just about, well, and I'm also halfway through a row. Just after the heel has turned, so I'm starting the decreases to finish the foot. Like this. You can see. So I reckon I will finish this for the quarantine sock knit along that Spinoodler is hosting, who is Elina, and I really love her kind of, yeah, I just love all the socks being made, and I loved her inspiration to get sock knitting. I'm especially knitting along with my friend Louisa and Lieke, and it'll just be nice to finish 2 pairs of socks. This sock along runs until the end of May, I think the last day of May. I will finish that sock, and I might have even embellished with my duplicate stitches and some kind of woven Verstärkung, reinforcement areas, so I'll definitely be finished as I envisaged them. They look so cool worn. I love them, so they're so cool in 90s, and Zari dreamt up a super cool pattern. And the other sock along that I'm starting to knit along with, the knit along for socks that I'm joining in with is the Stay at Home Socks Cal by lovely Ruth of Rain Cloud and Sage. She has a yarn company in the south of Germany producing local yarns. I think it's even spun in Germany, and it's the loveliest, wooliest wool. I definitely can see future projects for those. And I'm using the Exmoor sock by John Urban. Hang on, I've even got the labels. I love the labels for these yarns. Another EYF purchase from 2019. I bought the colors Mizzle and Quick Beam, and I will make stripy socks. At first I thought I'd do Emily's favorite socks, which I will knit. They are coming. But then I remembered that my friend Rebecca published the Eureka socks, especially for the sock yarn. So when the sock yarn launched for John Urban, Rebecca Mauser designed a really nice stripy sock, and I think they're striped, so both socks are the same but different, which is really cool. So I'm gonna knit these socks using these 2 colors. I'm very excited to get going. I guess as soon as I finish the other sock, because there's a kind of a bit of a sock needle issue. If I don't finish the one pair, then I don't have the needles for this pair, so I guess I should wait and then cast on after. But I'm super excited to knit along. It's definitely one of the things that's helping me with, as you can maybe tell from this podcast, how I've kind of flown from actually feeling a bit overwhelmed to beaming happy again. Is actually, I feel inspired by all these community makes, and knitting along with friends is actually where it's in the best mode, the kind of happy creative but also communicating and communal making. It's where I feel happy and can kind of ease into whatever else goes on. I can ease myself and I can relax myself by doing that. And I can put away that awful nag that I should be more productive or achieve more, because I'm achieving step by step. And there will be a new zine coming. It's like so almost there. Another thing where I have pressured myself ridiculously much over the past month and ended up blocking myself. It's almost like a two-sided sword. I make it worse by telling myself I should be, and why haven't I? It's this kind of stroppy toddler behavior. But then I need to let go of that, because now I've been really creative and worked out a lot. Actually, I got the last drawings back from Caro in the last 2 days, so now it's all on my table. I have to kind of fiddle with it, which I will do in the coming days or nights after work, and then there will be a zine. And so with every podcast, I kind of end with both a knit reportage and a tarot knit oracle. I'm gonna save the knit reportage because I want this to go out and I'm gonna be busy editing, so I'm not gonna film the garden as I had planned. I'll do that next time. There's always a chance to catch up with my content, and why not postpone that? But I'm gonna definitely ask my tarot knit oracle a little question. It's definitely to do with this situation that I just explained to you, how the communal knitting makes me kind of beam and ease into the situation, and that it helps me to be in touch with friends and communicate. Because my question for the Tarot Knit Oracle is actually how to deal with the new normal that's gonna start, for me especially, in the coming week working, but for all of us worldwide, wherever we are, we're all finding a new normal on our doorstep, because more and more we'll have to go back out into the world. And I have sewn a mask, or masks for the whole family already, like in the beginning, using the State the Label, a free PDF pattern by State the Label. That is kind of one thing for the new normal that I had to get used to, and I feel it's much more achievable now. But I will have to wear a mask during work hours, so this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to be working 4 days in the coming week, and I wonder how this new normal will work for me. So my tarot card is, if life resumes a partial kind of normal, as in daily routine, how do I balance my kind of home life? That my kids are still home because school is still closed, and my making life, how do all these three things balance with this kind of new normal of going back to work? Maybe this question is something that you're asking yourself as well, or maybe it is something you're just intrigued to stick around for. So I'm gonna add that in as a little visual fade out of this episode. Thank you so much for sticking around and visiting me today. I know I talked a lot about knit dreams and plans and makes, so I hope your head is not steaming from all my crazy ideas floating around. Maybe you're taking away some inspiration. I would absolutely love that. And if not, maybe my tarot card will inspire you somehow to find a way to live with this new normal. It might give us some insight of how to balance in this imbalanced world. Have a good day wherever you are. Stay safe and healthy. Look after yourself and your beloved ones. Make that home your home, and I hope it's safe wherever you are, and that you're safe at home and have support. You can always comment, you can always reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you want to join in the Magic 3 Make Along. Make sure to comment with your 3 ideas in the comments below, and then you qualify to win one of the patterns from Cynthia. That was just like a last little bit of a plug, but for now, let's move in over to the Tarot Knit Oracle. Bye! Thank you so much! So I've just drawn the cards, and I thought I'd quickly mention some of the meaning in my words rather than the written spill that I usually do, which I've just done. But if you imagine the Lovers is the idea of understanding kind of a new union maybe as well, and it said in my book something about being wise in the way we control our own needs, or I kind of like the way it pointed to how it's actually good to still accept to have that world where at home or in your life you still have this stay home focus, that you're still very much at home. And this is what I struggle with, the idea of the new normals. Like, I'll be going out into the world and working and have this new reality relating to people, wearing a mask, but I can still contain that loving and caring sense that we have by committing to the lockdown and staying home much. So I like that about the Lovers, of uniting these two elements that I find so torn in this kind of acceptance that I'm still kind of controlling, taking myself out of it, and still feel like I want to protect others. So I'm gonna sew more masks in order to have a good situation, because I'm a bit worried that I will get hot or stuffy and the mask will get wet. I've decided I'll just sew some more now so that I feel prepared for my first day tomorrow. And the second card, the Fool, I picked because I wanted to see how that relates either side. So the Lovers being two energies, and that's exactly what I wanted to see, a card for home. So it's staying nosy, starting with this kind of intrigued, magic way. The Fool's always, people always think it's kind of a card like, oh, you're such a fool, but that's a bad way of pointing it out. Actually, the Fool wants to see it as a positive thing, to start with this nosiness or incentive to find out more from ground zero, from starting off something new. And that's definitely what will help me with my schooling, because I will have to have a new sense, no judgment, easygoing, because I won't be home being able to control the kids' work. So I'll have to let go and step back from that a bit more and trust, and just kind of go with it. I'm only going to find and work forward if I see the things with those eyes of being nosy of how it'll work, and feeling kind of like a new start, a fresh way. And then the Magician, which is actually the relating card. So this is 0 and this is 1. I picked that for work, and that was also very encouraging to kind of know and understand my knowledge, that I'm sharing that, and I can share that through my mask, I can share it through Perspex wall, and I can just trust that I will be of help to those people reaching out for help, and that my knowledge brings me the stability to do well whilst going back out into that world. Because I always worry, like, how will it be to work in this situation? And this card shows me that I can trust myself. I'm not trying to say this now that I count myself as magic or this magician, but I can rely on the knowledge that I have and the creative spirit of making do, and I will be able to communicate and answer questions and find the right yarn for people, even in the situation that might feel a bit awkward. And just to rely on kind of the core knowledge is there, and I'll just have to do the work from that outwards. Also, in the beginning you would have seen me spread out my little mending tin, because I forgot. I'd promised my friend Cecile that I will show some of the mending stuff. For example, that I've got ready threaded needles in my mending tin. Then recently my friend Micah asked me how I mended the romper, and I showed that at the very beginning of the podcast. I basically used this double-sided, it's like this, it actually fell off. It's kind of like fusible ironing glue, and you kind of glue it onto the fabric, then you take off the paper, and then you put on whatever fabric you have. And I had this kind of cotton ribbon to use to kind of stick on and iron on again, which is really good because it kind of reinforces the tear in that bit. But oh no, another thing came undone. I don't have an envelope like Lisa of buttons, but I have this, or I had this embroidery floss with loads of different buttons, all sorts of sizes, because just emergency buttons, so you can carry on wearing whatever you had. Safety pins and one stitch marker I see is hiding there. So safety pins are always good for like a quick fix, just so things don't tear anymore. Then more thread, and these are all like vintage second-hand threads. Fingerhoed, because I tend to push needles into my fingers. I learned this from zine making, where you also sew the paper when you do like mini book binding. This really helps me to have that. And this measuring tape, because you might need it, you never know. And a pair of small scissors. Again, these were second hand, so just for cutting odd bits. But last and not least, I always have like a little tiny notebook. There's nothing written in here. And a tiny little pen in there for those ideas. When I suddenly have ideas, I want to note them down, or if I've done like counted some stitches and I don't have any paper nearby, that is in the mending tin. And I made lots of them because I tried to sell them at one point, and I don't think I sold any. Maybe I sold one. I was super excited when I had that idea, I think 2 years ago. And I gifted one to my friend Lika. I'm gonna just put that here at the end instead of a knit reportage, like a little tips and tricks that this little tin holds all those things, plus the notebook, which didn't fit in that. And yeah, I also forgot to mention this super cool book that Lisa sent me. And again, I just think I'm going to put that in here as a little extra outtake, because if you stayed as long as watching the Tarot Knit Oracle, you can have this as a little treat. This was a second-hand find she bought for me, a book that she owns herself. And this is about how to use adult clothes to make kids' clothes. And yeah, she always refers to this as being a bit of a spooky cover, and yeah, it is definitely strange. But I love it. It kind of illustrates of how, when you've taken out a pair of trousers, how you can make like a little dress, for example, and it's just so nicely illustrated how you then cut the pattern pieces. It's kind of tells you, oh, this is like a poncho from a sweater. It kind of shows in these really nice illustrations how to cut it, and then also how to, use some of the leftover fabrics. Yeah, it's a super cool book. I really enjoy it, and I think I'm gonna try and make a project from here, and then introduce that project in more detail with the pages. But I thought at the end I'll do a little book presentation of this super cool clothes for children, making new from old. I love it, and I love the pictures. This is actually cute. So I hope you enjoyed that as a little extra outtake, and have a really good day. Thank you for your time.